As a metal fan, you might be surprised to learn that Cannibal Corpse is a very love 'em or hate 'em style of band. Okay, it's not all of that surprising. You probably figure that folks that don't like heavy metal or don't like death metal just don't prefer Cannibal Corpse or find them offensive, and those that do like death metal and heavy metal actually do prefer Cannibal Corpse and find them to be legendary. Well, they are a forefather of the death metal genre here in America, and they're definitely an important group for death metal's history. However, even those within the subgenre find them to perhaps not be all they're cracked up to be. And then whenever you get politicians into this mix, well, then you get into some real absurdity. So, let's take a look exactly why some folks seem to have a bug up their ass about Cannibal Corpse, and it's definitely not a bug that's off of one of their album covers, because those aren't bugs, those are maggots. So let's examine 5 reasons why people hate Cannibal Corpse, and let's start it off, of course, with number 5, which is that not everybody likes death metal, but not all death metal fans like Cannibal Corpse. So we touched base a little bit of this in the introduction there, however, this is one that goes a little bit deeper. Now, not everybody does like death metal, even metal fans. There are some fans of heavy metal that just have simple preferences. They really enjoy some of the stuff that's on the fringe line, considering they have their roots more closely tied to another genre of music. Either that, or as they explore deeper, they find more in stuff that they find either to be uncomfortable or things that they can't get themselves behind. So this is sort of bare bones basic reason why somebody might disapprove or dislike Cannibal Corpse. Taking a look at a band like that, hearing the sound, which you're already uncomfortable with based off of other experiences, makes it easy to have distaste for this group. However, death metal fans themselves also find themselves really in a bit of a war between like and dislike with this band, with a lot of folks saying that their sound is a little bit derivative, that it's been simplistic, that they've essentially done the same thing ever since their debut, with very minimal alteration. Now, there can be a huge-ass debate about that, and I'm sure that there will be. However, that's certainly one of the main reasons why a lot of death metal fans will actually love the genre, or should I say subgenre of music, but will find Cannibal Corpse to be nothing more than a curious forefather that happens to be very important to the genre or subgenre, but not exactly all they're cracked up to be. Number 4, the lyricism/album cover controversies, and this one has 2 sides as well, so it's almost like we're getting 7 reasons why people look at Cannibal Corpse with disapproving eyes. Now, obviously from outsiders, you have the lyricism and album covers of this band that are banned, either that or are prevented from being sold in different places, in different countries, at different times, whatever it may be. And then you get the politicians involved. 1995, Bob Dole saying that Cannibal Corpse, along with some rap groups, are undermining the national character of the United States of America. Now, fast forward 20 years, and you realize that we're doing a fairly decent job of doing that on our own without the need for music, movies, or any other form of entertainment to really be involved. We're really that good at what we do. But then you actually get deeper. You get into actual heavy metal fans. You get into those that say that their lyricism is extreme, but perhaps just to be extreme, just to try to, out-extreme themselves, and it's very unmoving to them, as well as the music. Now remember, Cannibal Corpse themselves, whenever they were first getting started, shared that their love of horror movies and other things that were a bit depraved was really what led to some of the lyricism. And death metal, this has a very large prevalence within it, and now it's not something that every band really follows. In fact, there's been a little bit of a distance from that. However, gore and things of that variety definitely have that sort of basis. And Cannibal Corpse is one that certainly has used their love of horror and those different genres really to their favor whenever it comes to their lyricism. Almost like they were writing films without having any sort of camera work. But maybe that's what some of these folks need. The ones that find that Cannibal Corpse's lyrics are unmoving, maybe they just need a movie release. Maybe that should be the next thing Cannibal Corpse does. We don't need a new studio album, we need Cannibal Corpse the movie! Number 3, the Chris Barnes era versus the Corpse Grinder era. Now, 1995 was an important year for more than just the Bob Dole comments. It was also because a changing of the guard was about to be unveiled. Chris Barnes was going out, and George Corpse Grinder Fisher was going to be coming in to Cannibal Corpse. And even though many people say that this band's sound is very derivative, it hasn't changed in 25 to 30 years, there's still debates about which is better. Now, the Chris Barnes era is oftentimes seen as absolutely legendary for this band, going all the way up to the last album that he was a part of, which was The Bleeding, which is one of the best-selling death metal LPs of all time, with probably more than 100,000 units sold. I say probably, considering the number that I saw was close enough, 97,900, that I'm sure that they've sold 2,000 more copies within the past couple of years, because I'm sure that's an old figure. Now, with that being said, whenever we go with brass tacks, George Corpse Grinder Fisher came in with Vile, and he has really been the strong voice behind the second wave. And it's kind of funny, considering while his voice has still maintained itself, Chris Barnes and 6 Feet Under have fallen under some really black days, especially with their last 2 releases. Either way, this is a debate that's going to be universal, considering it's one that seems to happen with every band that encounters some sort of singer change. So those that were fans of the Chris Barnes era that simply don't prefer Corpse Grinder will hate the band based around that. And those who prefer Corpse Grinder will probably avoid some of the Chris Barnes material or not understand what its hype is all about. There's a little bit of history here. You might wonder what that causes as far as hatred is concerned. There's a lot of infighting, and sometimes people can be distanced from the band just based around the fact that the band that they like isn't singing anymore. People are really petty sometimes. Number 2, they're the Slayer of Death Metal. Oh, I can foresee the comments on this one. I can foresee them ever since I took a look at this comment, and it stayed with me ever since. Mainly because I noticed that I was seeing it way too often. They're the Slayer of Death Metal. They are a band that's essentially unmoved their style for the entirety of their career. In fact, to be perfectly honest, Cannibal Corpse might actually be more Slayer than Slayer in that department, considering Slayer has had some moments where they've attempted some experimentation. Cannibal Corpse, by and large, has been a little bit different than their initial debuts. There's definitely been some pacing that has gotten some adjustments, but aside from that, they have stayed within their safe confines. They've stayed within their breed of death metal, and it's definitely one that has brought them fame, fortune, and bitches, just like I stated for Morbid Angel before they ruined that with Olindavidium Insanus. Hopefully their follow-up is worthwhile. There's another heavy metal band we could talk about. But either way, Cannibal Corpse being the Slayer of Death Metal might not necessarily be the worst of things, considering it's kept the era of true death metal still close to people's hearts. Especially whenever bands like 6 Feet Under essentially attempted to do that in 2015 and failed so miserably it was almost absurd. Number 1, they're bland. 2 words that I have seen far too much when doing the research and finding out why people dislike Cannibal Corpse. That they're bland. How can Cannibal Corpse be bland, you might be wondering? Well, we mentioned that in number 2. The derivative nature of their lyricism, the derivative nature of their music, the fact that they have been unmoving for the entirety of their career, that they have stuck with what they know, they've stuck what brought them attention, that stuck what brought them fame, stuck with what they've really, came to the dance with, and they're bland. It's not all that good. There are many bands out there that are doing what Cannibal Corpse has been doing for 30 years much better, and has been ever since they debuted. Cannibal Corpse can't compare to this band or this band or this band. So basically the changing of the guard is the reason why you can't get into Cannibal Corpse? Know your history, and understand and at least appreciate your history. This has definitely been a theme throughout this video, even if it's not directly been mentioned. So, Cannibal Corpse being bland seems absolutely absurd, but there are a lot of folks that feel that way. They feel that this group needs to add a little bit of spice or a little bit of punch, a little bit of difference to what they do. However, at this point, the group has really made a name for themselves based off of the real subgenre of music that they helped semi-popularize. Why do you think there is such a vast population of folks that are entering into the death metal foray, and why do you think that they're actually attempting to sort of branch the genre out to help it be a little bit more inclusive? Is it partially because of Cannibal Corpse and the original wave of death metal? Absolutely. Is it partially because of the Gothenburg sound with bands such as In Flames and At the Gates, Dark Tranquility, second era Carcass? Absolutely. Basically, everything that has led to what you might consider to be better or more vastly explorative death metal today is based off of the foundation that was laid by a band like Cannibal Corpse, or Death, or Morbid Angel, or Deicide, or whatever. Name your names. But based off of that, that's why we now have the nice things that we do. And really, whenever you think about it, those names that I just mentioned, back whenever it was first getting started, and we were first getting into them, they were pretty nice too. All in all, it's just been nice things for death metal whenever it comes to the really vast exploration of the genre. And considering it's one that has that wave effect that is able to go into other styles of heavy metal or even other styles of music in order to give it a little bit of extra flair or a little bit of difference, make it a little less derivative, Cannibal Corpse is actually owed a little bit more of a debt, as opposed to getting a lot more of the flack for simply being bland. And the funny thing is that if this person happened to be a Slayer fan and said that Cannibal Corpse was bland, then they have themselves a little bit of an identity crisis. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, 5 reasons why people hate Cannibal Corpse. Do you hate Cannibal Corpse? Let me know in the comments below. Do you love Cannibal Corpse? You probably should. Let me know in the comments below. What's the next band that needs to be roasted, toasted, burnt to a crisp, and blown up? With 5 reasons why people hate them. Let me know in the comments as well. I'm CoverKillerNation, and I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.